Well, well, well. Guess who has not uploaded a video for almost 2 years? Hello, folks. Yeah, it's me. It's me and us on this qualitative show company who have not been uploading any chatty videos for the past almost 2 years. I'm literally just looking at our content list on YouTube, and the last chatty long video that we posted was at the end of 2023, and it was literally called CRO 2023 Wrapped, when like GA4 was going away and AI was coming out. So I've been thinking what the whole point of starting this YouTube channel was when we did almost 5 years ago. Yeah, whenever we started our little CRO agency, Qualitative. And we just wanted to really have this platform that wouldn't have too many constraints on it in terms of what we can or should be posting. We just wanted to have a platform where we can show up and have these longer, chatty videos where we just sort of talk about different CRO research, analytics, experimentation issues, and also just like stuff that we've been experiencing in our own agency, stuff we're working on, so on and so on. And yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute because lots of reasons. Number one is I think that client work for us always comes first. So content creation is kind of like this added bonus thing that we really like doing and should be doing, but unfortunately it doesn't pay the bills yet. So client work is always first for us. And then just general life reasons, weird things, moving, random family stuff, and also just recently I've been going through kind of a dark time behind the scenes, but what better way to distract myself than talk about KPIs and marketing? Because that's what really matters in life, isn't it? I do have a real topic, a real CRO topic for this video today as well, so feel free to skip the intro. I'll put a timestamp if you don't care about any of this background stuff. I fully respect that. If you're just here for the CRO content, that's fine. But for me, it just always feels kind of weird to jump into talking about, I don't know, some rehearsed topic, especially if there's been such a long gap between actually showing up here. So yeah, what else has been going on? This is kind of a new background for these videos. This is my new office. We spent almost the whole summer renovating it. I painted it purple. I like it. It's kind of like a Barbie's dream house vibe in here, which I love. I still need some artwork up in here behind me to make it more visually interesting. And what else? We've also been working on a product that is still in the really early phases of, like, we're calling it a private beta still. It's still free for anyone to try out. But we want to do a separate video, me and Ryan together, going through all of that process. What's that been like? What the point of it is, why we're building it. But long story short, it's a tool for A/B test analysis, specifically for people who want to use BigQuery but don't want to write SQL. So our tool will connect automatically to GA4, BigQuery, and your testing tool and pull all the raw data out in a neat platform dashboard that you don't have to build yourself. You just get all the calculations and everything. So could be useful for people who work across different testing tools. Could be useful for people who just want to work with raw data and do more sophisticated analysis based on your GA4 metrics and tracking setup. So yeah, more to come on that very soon, hopefully, as well. Otherwise, it's getting kind of cold where I live now. It's straight up fall, y'all. The leaves are colorful and crunchy, which is pleasing. That's kind of like my main updates that I wanted to get out of the way. And the real topic for today is customer research, specifically open-ended customer research, and why people really don't want to do it, and why is it so hard to get approval as a consultant or even as an employee, I think, to even launch like a survey or any type of customer research initiatives, because it's one of those things where most of it really is upside. Like, it can be so valuable. So that's why it's always shocking to me, and I know others as well, when they pitch an idea or there is a problem that needs to be solved and we just need more information to understand the problem and how to solve it, but then nobody really wants to talk to the customers or ask anybody some questions. At first I made this meme. People like memes still, right? I'll put it on the screen. Just like trying to convince your stakeholders that it won't destroy the entire company to send out a single survey. And honestly, I've been doing CRO for I think almost 8 years or something, and on every major project, people just are really hesitant or almost scared to talk to their customers. And that's one of our main jobs, is to kind of reassure and educate about why it's actually not such a big deal. Usually nothing bad really happens, other than the fact that you might find out things that you are not doing so well, and it may hurt your ego a little bit. It's also getting kind of harder to get quality responses from your own customers, especially compared to like 5 years ago. At least that's my feeling. Let me know if you're sensing that or experiencing that too. My intuition, the word that nobody wants to use in our line of work, but my feeling is that a big part of why it's getting harder to get quality responses for anything qualitative is that people are just so overwhelmed by this constant bombardment of ads and all sorts of pop-ups and useless stuff that everyone does, but doesn't necessarily yield the best results. But from the customer's perspective, it's no different to them, right? If they get these constant pop-ups about discounts and whatever, email opt-ins, versus if you're asking them real information about their journey and your product. It's a weird trade-off that not a lot of people think about, but I think we should think about that. And actually, one of my hopes and dreams for a test, I guess, for a long time, I just haven't had the right project or the right platform to try it out. But if anyone has tried it, please let me know. Or if you can try it, please go for it. So all those pop-ups where you land on an e-com or whatever and they ask for your email to get a new customer discount. I would love to see a test between, that being the control version and the variation being, instead of their email, you ask them for feedback about the site experience, for example. Because you'll get their email anyway at the end, right? If they buy something. And I get that email lists are very, very valuable, and it's sort of hard to let that idea go. But even just on a testing basis, if you do own an e-com or you work for an e-com where you have the power to pull something like that off, please try it and let me know what the results were. That would be cool. And I would love to do that one day for somebody. Please let me. Anywho, from that meme post, it seems like people resonated with it, and there were some conversations going on my LinkedIn feed about it. I sort of started thinking about, all of the different reasons why people resist this open-ended research. And there are a few. There's different ones. So I wanted to put something more tangible together. And since I don't know a better word than a framework, even though I hate that word, and people love frameworks, on LinkedIn especially, I called it a framework. I put together these 4 pillars or points that I think go into this resistance. I called it the stakeholder resistance framework. And the first one of those is psychological biases. And, there's a lot of talk about psychological biases in our line of work. Everybody knows we have them. A lot of them we're sort of blind to ourselves of what our bias is as a person. And as an external consultant person, it's always kind of like a fine line where you sort of get that your responsibility in work is to cover these blind spots for the people that you're working with, but at the same time, it can come off as, not really offensive, I think, but like shocking sometimes, when somebody points out something about you that is true, but you're not maybe necessarily super aware of and don't even like. That's a little bit tough, but it's necessary. And at the end of the day, our job is to optimize things. And how else do we get better if we don't uncover these blind spots? But anyway, the main ones that I tried to map out that I see all the time is loss aversion, negativity bias, confirmation bias, and ambiguity aversion. The first one, super common that I hear so much, is that, oh, we don't want to annoy our customers. And that's a tough one for me to accept, especially because it's usually the same companies that bombard their customers with like 10 emails a day, massive ad campaigns, all of this like extra stuff that is, even pretty hard to measure these days because attribution has become a little bit of a hypothetical fairy tale because there are a million touch points and devices these days and all of that. So to me, it's always like, okay, you're already annoying them. Like, let's be honest, right? You are annoying them. So if the upside of what we're trying to do with this customer research initiative is that you will get invaluable information about how to actually improve your product so that people will actually like it more and want to buy it without you having to hassle them every hour of every day, isn't that worth it to you? I think it should be. Just something to consider. And the other one is what I kind of already touched on. If we ask, we'll just get complaints and negative feedback. And that's usually something that nobody says out loud directly, at least not in my experience, but it's just one of those things that you can sense kind of. It has the same vibe where often people refuse to give access to us as external contractors to some random tool that is super important, like analytics or whatever. And then later it turns out because they sort of know it was a huge mess in there, and they feel ownership over it and sort of tie it to their identity in a weird way. So they feel like we're going to shame them for doing a bad job, which is never the case. And I get where that weird feeling is coming from, but the whole point of working with external consultants is that, like, we're here to help you make sense of all this mess, and we never judge anyone for doing like a bad job. You're literally paying us to help you sort it out. Like, why? Why would we shame anyone or make anybody feel bad? And the thing about only getting positive feedback about your product from open-ended research is that it's not really actionable. And I think that's what a lot of people forget, is that we want to hear what people dislike. We want to hear what they're angry about, what they're frustrated with. Because if 99% of people tell you that, oh yeah, we liked your website and your product and everything, and I mean, sure, it will make you feel good for 5 seconds, but at the end of the day, what are you going to do with that information? Nothing. So you want to hear the bad stuff. The next one is that, oh, we already know. We already know what they're going to say. We have done research in the past, and we know what we're supposed to be working on. That's maybe one of the biggest blind spots, actually, that people have. And I'm not even sure like how to... It's just such an odd mindset to me. And usually it's not the case that, oh, we just, concluded a survey yesterday and we don't want to launch another one today. Usually it's like, no, we did one survey 2 years ago and we're still working on those issues, so there's no point in launching another one. I mean, we live in the digital era where everything changes in the blink of an eye. You don't know what you don't know. And it's just something about this mindset that is really harmful, I think, to the entire growth culture of a company. And it's hard to detect within ourselves, but if you are a leader of some sort, you manage people or you manage your department or UX researcher or whatever, I think that's one of the main things to look out for when hiring people as well, because you can sort of see who has this type of mindset that, oh no, there's always more to find out. There's always more we can do. Let's just talk to people and find out interesting things. Because when you work on something for a long time, you do develop this weird tunnel vision, and it takes fresh eyes, an outside perspective, to really put things into perspective, I guess, because it happens to everybody. And then, of course, there are the hardcore numbers people who believe that the only way to grow is looking at numbers on a dashboard, because those are easy to, add up and sort of draw conclusions from. But at the end of the day, it's not the whole picture, right? It shows you what people are doing. It doesn't really tell you why they're doing it. You still need to go out and talk to people. And you do need both types of people in your team. You need the numbers people, and you need the people who can talk to other people. How many times did I say people? People are important. That's my point. Moving on to the next topic, which is organizational dynamics. Another one that is super prominent is the sort of control bias, where people perceive open-ended surveys as something that is super hard to analyze. And it sort of is, in the sense that it takes a bit. It takes a human brain to try to categorize answers. I've seen it happen many times when two people go through the same data set. They come up with different categories because they interpret the data differently. And often that can even be helpful. You get different team members in your team, look at the same data set, and sort of meet in the middle and figure out what people actually meant. But the thing that happens very often is because of all these things, companies and people feel that it's much easier to launch a multiple choice survey, for example, or an NPS. And again, it's just one of those things where the whole point of doing research is to find out things that you don't know. And if you feed the answers to the person that you're trying to get answers from, you're not going to really learn anything that substantial. Especially with NPS, I always encourage people to go through that mental exercise of like, okay, we're going to ask a bunch of people, how did you like this thing from 1 to 10? And then you get a bunch of 4s and 5s. So, what is the action based on that data for you exactly? What are you going to do differently based on whether they answered that we liked it 4 out of 10 versus we liked it 5 out of 10? Or any number for that matter. The answer again is nothing. Like usually those answers end up sitting somewhere in a folder and nobody will ever look at them again. And people would just kind of pat themselves on the back like, oh, we got a lot of 8s and 9s and this means people like our product. Okay, cool. What are you going to do with that? The other thing is that good research initiatives often take time, especially if you're working with smaller lists of people. It takes time to gather the responses, figure out what the right initiatives are. Often you need some kind of incentives. It takes months. And, in this fast paced world, people really want quick results and perceive it as too much effort for the ROI. But then again, I would like to remind everyone that just these open ended, verbatim answers from customers, they're truly invaluable. Like, there's nothing like that you can use within your marketing data to directly make an impact on your product or website. And there are so many ways that you can keep using that data as well. If there's very interesting answers, you can always reach out to those people individually, ask them to come for a one-on-one customer interview, for example. You can ask permission to use their quotes within your copy. Learn from their answers to write your own copy and make it more customer-centric. Use the language that your customers are using already. Possibilities are endless, really. And then again, all these fears that come up, the main one is really, we don't want to bother them. We don't want to over email our list and, end up with too many unsubscribes. And then again, it's like, if you're already at that point, then probably you should revisit your email campaign strategy, because you just acknowledged to yourself that you are already over emailing your customers. So I don't think sending out one extra email about asking for direct feedback is actually going to make the scales tip, so to say. And the problems were already there. And then there's the fear of looking needy to your customers, or that the company is unsure of itself or something. That's also, I think, maybe a legacy type of old-timey mindset, because I think most people are pretty aware of the brands that they interact with these days. And it's always a positive thing when a brand directly says that, hey, we care about what our customers think about us and we want to improve based on your feedback. Just even think of TV shows where they don't take into account what people actually want or like, and then they just end up with really bad ratings, and then everyone's just like, oh no, what happened? But nobody listened to the fan base. Looking at you, Witcher, on Netflix. Anyway, kind of the same deal with brands in general. I think there's really no downside in interacting with your fan base, customers, letting them know that their opinions are heard, especially if they've been loyal to you in the long term already. Like, they're not going to unsubscribe based on one email asking for their direct feedback. They might unsubscribe if you send them 10 promotional emails a day for the same stuff that they already bought, but there's a difference. These are my thoughts recently about doing open-ended customer research. I'm going to keep working on this framework and try to add more direct counter arguments, I think, to each of these scenarios that might be useful to people when they are trying to push these things through. From my own experience, I can also say that, obviously A/B testing, experimentation is a big part of all of this. And I think anyone who's been in it long enough can sort of say that the best sort of results always come from ideas that are backed by multiple sources in terms of actual feedback from the real world, not just the internal team's opinions, feelings. Those can be valuable too, but the more data points you can get for a specific problem that it is a real problem, the more likely you are to actually solve it in a meaningful way. Thanks for watching. If you got to this point, let me know if you want to chat about any of these issues, if you have your own counter arguments that you use for these scenarios, or if there's other scenarios you encounter in your work all the time, why people don't want to do research. Hopefully, I'll see you on here sooner than 2 years again. It was nice catching up. If you need help with doing customer research experimentation, our agency is available for hire. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll see you next time. Bye.